We're in London's Photographers Gallery in Ramillies Street, just near Oxford Circus, where the 13th Deutsche Börse Photography Prize is about to open. But it's not just about the prize, it's about the most interesting photography being made at the moment. We're standing now in the work of Paul Graham, the only British photographer in this exhibition. Paul Graham began as what might be called a documentary photographer, but over the years his work has become more personal and more varied and more strange in lots of ways. He's photographed everything from the graffiti on lavatory walls, which looks like abstract painting, to portraits and street scenes. In these photographs, which have got a group name of the Shimmer of Possibility, Graham brings together different groups of photographs that he's made at different moments. Really ad hoc pictures of people he's come across, places he's been. So we have a group of images of what looks like a poor or homeless guy trying to sell flowers, irises, that maybe he's just picked up somewhere. They're very badly lit. He's trying to just capture the moment of when he's encountered this character. And these kind of slide into another group of photographs of a man taking a cigarette break in the shadow of a building. There he stands, kind of cornered by the walls behind him, and Graham just shoots picture after picture after picture. In this sequence, it's dusk. The sun's going down. The color is being leached from the world. And it's about being there, really. And I think by sequencing the photographs, so one slides into another, you do have a sense of not just the camera's journey, but his journey too, and the way he's trying to make sense of the travel he's taken. We're in a very different kind of exhibition now by the Palestinian artist Emily Jassir. Jassir isn't entirely a photographer, and it's sometimes difficult to see quite what her work is doing in this exhibition, although there are photographs in it. This is a portrait of Wael Zater, a Palestinian intellectual living in Rome and murdered by Mossad in 1972. This deckled edge leads us to suspect that this was once a little photograph carried around in someone's wallet. But it's been remade and reshot. This work is really an archival exploration, and it has much in common with the kind of techniques and the strategies used by Walid Raid of the Atlas Group, who won the photography prize here the time before last. This is a photograph of a volume of the 1001 Nights in Arabic, which was being carried by Zaiter when he was shot. And here one can see the last of the 13 bullets, the only one that didn't pierce his body. And here is a photograph of a meeting held in Kuwait City of intellectuals discussing the Palestinian situation in 1971. And there in the center is the Italian novelist Alberto Moravia. How much of this exhibition is really about photography? Of course, photography is used in it, even in the reproductions of these book jackets or in the letters that are also hanging on the walls. My problem with this exhibition is that it doesn't really engage the medium except in an archival way. I think she's a good artist, but I think I'd be just as happy to see all this material presented to me in a book. We've moved on to the work of Taryn Simon, the youngest of the photographers in this year's Deutsche Börse. And this is one of her best-known photographs. It's of an inbred tiger in some kind of a zoo in Arkansas. Simon's work is yet another trip round America and a look at some of the things in American society and American life that you wouldn't normally get to see. This is an image looking down on drums of nuclear waste, all underwater. If the water wasn't there and you stood close to these drums, you'd receive a lethal dose of radiation within about 10 seconds. This is in a doctor's surgery. Someone who makes their living from rebuilding women's hymens so that when they marry, they will appear to be virgins. Simon's photographs have all the sheen and the gloss and the compositional drama that one comes to expect really from magazine photography. And technically, I find her shots a bit cliched and a bit ordinary, however fascinating her subjects are. But it doesn't make them the most interesting photographs here. This is the work of Todd Papageorge, the oldest photographer here, approaching 70. I first got to hear of him in about 1971, singing on one of my favourite albums called Escalator Over the Hill. And when I read his name again, when I first saw these photographs in a book a long time ago, I couldn't quite believe it was the same person, but it is. Papageorge is someone I immediately warmed to. What he's showing here is all part of a series shot in Central Park through the 1960s into the 1980s. Even though this series of photographs called Passing Through Eden looks like a kind of prelapsarian world, a beautiful world where Adam and Eve lounge on a rug and listen to the radio, it was never quite the kind of Eden and the garden that it's made out to be. Through much of the time when Papageorge was taking these photographs, Central Park was, for many hours of the day and night, a bit of a no-go area. It's as if it's been composed, but it hasn't. There's something, of course, of Cartier-Bresson's decisive moment in these photographs. Is she really fishing? I can't hardly believe that she's going to catch the largemouth bass and the crappies in Central Park. And what's this guy doing, cradling his head? Is he having a breakdown? And this is one of my favourites here. 3 men sitting on a park bench, one with his lover straddling him, another with his face in a newspaper, another looking at, I don't know what, a betting slip or maybe a religious tract. You're never entirely sure quite what his relationship with these people is as he's hovering over them and watching them. For me, out of these 4 photographers stroke artists, Paul Graham needs a bigger body of work to be shown to really get the measure of that whole series of his road trips. Emily Jacir seems like the wrong artist in the wrong show, as far as I'm concerned. And Taryn Simon, they just don't make it. Todd Papageorge, on the other hand, every shot is memorable. They also have a cumulative effect, a kind of rolling cumulative growth as a series. It's an essay, it's a novel, it has a lot of power, and each one is an unforgettable image.